Welcome to the High Voltage Light Electric Vehicle channel. This is my BBSHD fat bike. It's been a while since it's featured in a video on the channel, but for people who've been with us a long time, it will be familiar because this bike was the beginning of everything. It started life as a stock BBSHD install and a quick YouTube video explaining what I did. 4 years and 160 videos later, it's turned into the high voltage light electric vehicle community, with thousands of members all helping each other and even generating a part-time income in some cases. It demonstrates that from small seeds, big trees can grow, and we're well on our way to becoming a mighty oak. And that's down to the hard work and contribution of many, many people, and you know who you are. So for this video, we'll have a look at this bike 4 years on and look at how it's holding up, what I've had to do to maintain it, things that I do differently, and what I plan to do to refresh the bike. So we'll start off with the motor, which is the BBSHD. And this is the 120mm bottom bracket version. It has about 8,000 kilometers on it now, with just over half of that with the ASI modifications. I installed it on the bike in 2018, torqued down with 90 foot-pounds with a proper torque wrench. It's not budged a millimetre since. I haven't re-greased it or changed out the nylon gear, and it's still running fine. I probably am pushing it a little bit farther, so part of the refresh will be a full strip down, and I'll do a video on that, and we can see exactly what condition the internal gears are in. And I will also take that opportunity at that point to install the peak gear and give it a full re-grease. The controller here is the now discontinued ASI BAC 800, which has now been converted to the BAC 855. It's been very reliable, delivering around 3.5 kilowatts of power. I put quite a bit of effort into making sure that everything was watertight and sealed up, and I used quite a few techniques, including silicone and liquid electrical tape. And I'm going to be replacing this harness with the one that we do at high voltage, and it's going to be very interesting to see the condition of all this wiring after 4 years, well, not 4 years, after about 3 seasons or 3 winter seasons on the bike. But we'll take it all apart and we can see if there's any dirt or debris that's got in there. We'll talk a bit now about the drivetrain of the bike, and this is the area which generally with bikes requires the most kind of maintenance. I keep the chain lubricated, but I don't spend a lot of time fanning around with it. Up at the front, I'm using the Lecky 42 tooth, and to be honest, it's still the gold standard for front sprockets. It's really strong. If you look here, I mean, there obviously is a little bit of wear on it, but it certainly looks like it can do another 8,000 kilometers. There's no real sharking or any issues of wear on the teeth, which is excellent. I'm super impressed with this, and I would recommend this one. I mean, they are quite expensive, but you get what you pay for. Chains. I keep getting told still that I must be burning through chains like once a week kind of thing, and it's just not the case. And some of it is because of the way I have the bike geared, with a big sprocket at the back and a big sprocket at the front, and I'm going with a 1-to-1 ratio on this, and I have a very straight chain line, and I'm not shifting up and down gears. So because of that, I'm not getting a lot of wear on chains. I'm not finding that they're wearing out, and I've been through 4. 2 of them were the 10-speed ones when I was shifting gears, and 2 of them are the 6 to 8 speed chain, which are very strong, very cheap, and they seem to be lasting me. Very happy with them. These are just standard KMC 6 to 8 speed chain. They cost me about $15. So really, if I go through one of those a year, it's not too bad. At the back, this is still, believe it or not, the original Sunrace cassette, which I chopped and changed to move it to get a better chain line. And you can see there is some wear on this now starting to happen. There is a little bit of what they call sharking, where it's wearing out at the back, and it'll start to cut out that more and more. So when I do a refresh, I probably will be pulling this, but I want to do something different anyway, and I've got Johnny working on some custom parts to use front sprockets as a rear sprocket. So I'll be looking to keep the 1-to-1 gear ratio, but using some of those parts. This derailleur, I thought it wouldn't last very long at all, but it's still going. I still don't have any issues with it. The teeth down here are still okay. There's no reason to change it. I probably will play about with some other stuff though, but it's still functional. It's still using the original components that came with the bike, despite around 5,000 kilometers of being run at about 3,000 watts plus, which I think is pretty impressive. And it kind of puts paid to this whole idea that I must be wrecking the drivetrain constantly. And it also puts paid to this idea that you need to spend hundreds of dollars on really high-end stuff. You don't. You just need good quality steel, which is actually cheaper than buying good quality aluminum stuff in some cases. In terms of the frame overall, I'm super happy with it. And I think it's tragic that Specialized for some reason are not making the Fatboy anymore, because it's a brilliant frame for building an electric bike with. It really is. The motor sits reasonably high up. It's strong. It has good balance. It's great. I wouldn't change it for the world. What I want though is I want to strip it down all the way to the bare frame, to the bare metal. And I want to paint it a different color, because I wanted black originally. So I'm thinking I might give it like a high voltage theme color. And it'll also give me an opportunity to have a good look at the bottom bracket area and all the joints and inspect it to see if there has been any cracking. See if there's been any fatigue with the metal. And if there has been, then I will show you guys 100% that that's there. Where I definitely redo things, and I will be redoing things, is the brakes. And they're still the stock Tektro brakes, which are dual piston, and they're okay. They do stop the bike, but I'm a pretty light rider, and they might run into problems with a heavier rider. In fact, I'm sure they would run into problems with a heavier rider. So I'm going to go with the MT5s on that, because they're good value for the money and they're good stopping power for the money. So I'll do those front and rear, and probably go up to a nice bigger vented rotor on there, or a floating rotor. They chew through pads, and that's probably been the biggest expense of this bike, has been the amount of pads that I've had to replace. And I generally go through 3 sets in the summer season, 1 set in the winter season. So that's 4 sets of pads a year, which is quite a lot. And I think if there were better brakes, there would be less use of those pads. Although I do live in a really hilly area, so there's no getting away of it. There's no getting away from it to some extent. So yeah, going to redo the brakes, and yeah, that's it for those. In terms of the battery, I ended up settling on running at 72 volts. And I found that it's given me a really good range, and it's also allowed me to keep good temperature control on the motor. And I found even doing long runs uphill, I'm not overheating the motor to any great extent. I'm coming out at about 55 degrees C at the top of a 4-kilometer climb, which I'm pretty happy with, and I'm not exactly holding back on the motor doing that. When it got really hot in the summer, I did have to throttle the bike a bit, but I mean, honestly, if the weather outside is 38 degrees C, I mean, that's kind of to be expected a little bit. But overall, very happy with the performance of the battery, and that's a 72 volt one using the Sony VT6 cells. So that's it pretty much for the update on the bike. It's been my mainstay ride for all seasons for the last 4 years. It's brought me huge amounts of pleasure, and it's been really brilliant seeing so many people inspired to build bikes of their own from watching the videos that I've put out. It's going to be a great deal of fun to do a full takedown, take apart of this bike, and a full refresh. And I'm going to do videos on that as well. I see no reason why, with a bit of TLC, I should not be able to get another 8,000 kilometers out of the BBSHD. I've pretty much given up by now trying to calculate how much money I've saved by using this bike, and the enjoyment of it is certainly priceless. I've not covered every last detail about the bike and the build here, and there are lots of other videos on this channel if you'd like to see those. You're also welcome to ask questions on either YouTube comments, or you can join our Discord community if you're thinking of building or modifying a bike of your own. Thanks for watching the channel. Cheers.